All right, what's up? What's up? This is Billy Boy, and I'm gonna do a little story time here. I'm gonna tell you about when I was in basic training back in 1975. I was up at a place called Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It was a hellhole in South Carolina. I was on Tank Hill for you old veterans that know I'm talking about, and I was in E10 2. Okay, up on Tank Hill. 1975. I was a private nothing. And so if today our training was to take and throw the hand grenade, we had to throw the hand grenade. So we did a force march all the way down the street and all the way up in the hills and everything. And they had this training area where they had this little building that had this steel corrugated roof on it. So we all went inside and sat down, and you could hear this boom, right? And boom. And I guess that they had the corrugated steel so that you could hear all the rocks and boulders and stuff that would be hitting the ground. So every time there's a boom, you hear all this on top of this roof, all this dirt and boulders and stuff falling and stuff. And the whole seat would shake every time one of those hand grenades would come off. I'm going. So they gave us all a little hand grenade, and we're sitting here all scared, hold it, but it was a dummy hand grenade. We didn't know. So he says, "All right, this is what you got to do. All right, you got the hand grenade, and you got the spoon, right, and you got the pin. All right. So what you gonna do?" And these are drill sergeants because they talk all mean and everything. Take the hold the hand grenade in your left hand, or hold it in your right hand, and then pull the pin out. Do not release the spoon, right? Hold the spoon with your thumb, pull the pin out, look at your objective, point to your objective. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take and swing and throw this hand grenade as far as you can to the objective. You understand? So let me tell you again. So he put the pin back in. He says, "All right, hold the hand grenade in your hand. Hold the pin out. You're going to take and throw the hand grenade to the objective. Build down, bend over and crouch and start counting. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. And somewhere between 5 1,000 and 10 1,000, this thing is going to explode." So, does anybody got any questions? And so nobody seemed to have any questions. She says, "Well, we want you to practice with the dummy one that's in your hand right now." So I was kind of scared, you know, because I think it was a round ball looking thing. It was green, and you pull the pin out and you throw it. You wouldn't throw it because we're inside of a building. You would just throw it. They had a little sand pit. You throw it in there, and then you go practice with another one, and you throw it in there. But while we were practicing, we were right next to the hand grenade range. So when we was practicing, the whole ground would shake. Boom! Now outside were the lanes, and there was these great big concrete walls. So think of a concrete wall about 4 feet high and about 4 feet thick, and it had these side walls that were 4 feet thick. So it was like a bunker out there. And in the middle of this little pit, there was this round piece of concrete that you would stand on or kneel on, and it had a trench all the way around. So in case you dropped your hand grenade, or you had an accident with the hand grenade would fall onto the ground. It would roll into the trench, and it would roll up underneath you, right? And it would take and explode, and then all the explosion and shrapnel would come off to the sides. That was That was the gist of it. So they haven't had too many people get killed on this range in the last month or so. So they wanted to have a perfect month. They wanted to have it where the was no recruits killed. They wanted to have a perfect accident-free month. And we were getting near the end of the month, and I said, sure, I like to see an accident-free month. I don't want to get blown up with this little thing. So we would sit there on the bench, on the prep bench, and they would call you out. You know, Private Ramirez, report to lane 3. Private so-and-so, report to lane 4. Right? And they would call, and you would come out, you'd had your helmet on and everything, and all your protective stuff. You have your M16 and everything. And they would take and call you out. So, after about 5 or 10 minutes, the range is now open. First, you had the range is closed. Then they had this announcement that the range is now open. Okay, so the range is now open. It's live. Private so-and-so, lane 1. Private so-and-so, lane 2. Private so-and-so, lane 3. Private Martin, lane 4. That was me. I'm going, oh shit. And so I had my little dummy grenade, and the drill sergeant told me to put the practice grenade down in the box. They had a little box, and he says, do you have your earphones? Because you had to have earplugs. And he checked to see that you have your earplugs on, and then he also checked to see, did you have your dog tags, right? And I'm going, oh, why is he checking the dog tags? It's because we got to find out what's left if you don't make it. And, oh no. So I went over there and I walked over to lane 4. Private Martin reporting for training, sir. He says, all right, get over here. So there was a drill sergeant in the lane, and he had these big box of live hand grenades, and he took it. He had it in his hand. He says, all right, are you ready, Private Martin? I said, yes, I'm ready. He says, here is your one live so-and-so grenade. Get ready. All right, so he's watching me. Okay, take the position. So I said, all right, I know what the position is. I've got the hand grenade. There's a spoon. And there's a pin. What are you going to do, Private Martin? I'm going to pull the pin, and I'm going to throw the hand grenade. Are you sure? Yes, that's what I'm going to do. All right, execute, Private Martin. So I took and said, yes, sir, drill sergeant. And I pulled the pin and held on to the spoon, pointed down to the range, and I took and ducked down, and I threw the hand grenade. And I went down, and I was crouching alongside the drill sergeant. And I said, I got this one licked. I start counting. 1, 1,000. 2, 1,000. I was expecting this great big explosion. 3, 1,000. And I didn't hear no explosion yet. 4, 1,000. And then I remembered they said that on between 5 to 10, 1,000, that's when this thing's going to explode. When I got to 4, 1,000, I kind of looked over to the side right there, and right on the deck, right there on the deck, right there in front of me and the drill sergeant was my hand grenade. The spoon flew off to the side, spoon flew off, and the live hand grenade was sitting right there in front of me and my drill sergeant. What I had done is when I threw the hand grenade, I didn't throw it high enough, and it hit the wall right in front of us and fell down right in front of us. It didn't roll down in the ditch. It just sitting right there. And I'm at 4, 1,000. And then the drill sergeant looked up, and I said, drill sergeant, what's that right there? And he looked over and saw that hand grenade, and the only thing that I heard was, oh shit! And everything was slow motion. He threw me over, and he jumped over that 4-foot wall into the next lane. Oh shit! And I went 5-1000. And when I said 5-1000, whoa! But I didn't get killed, because when I was at 4-1000, when I saw him jumping over the wall, I went over there, I reached and picked up the hand grenade in my hand. And I held the hand grenade in my hand. I start laughing. I go, 5-1000. And I just tossed it over the wall. I just tossed this live hand grenade over the wall. When I tossed it over the wall, all I could see was the bottoms of my drill sergeant's boots as he was leaping over the wall. I said 5-1000. As soon as that hand grenade went on the other side of that 4 feet thick wall, whoa! And the dirt and everything went up, and all these rocks and shrapnel and everything and gravel and everything was raining on top of that roof. It must have rained for like about 2 or 3 minutes, because see, the hand grenades aren't supposed to land on the other side of the wall. They're supposed to go way out there in the field out there and explode. So they had a lot of gravel and stuff around this great big bunker thing where we were throwing the lanes. There's a lot of gravel. So I blew all that gravel out of that pit, and I cracked that 4 feet high, 4 feet thick concrete wall. When I looked at it, I could see right through it. It cracked. It cracked that 4 foot wide concrete wall. Cracked it half in two. And it was quiet. After all the rocks fell down, it was quiet. Nobody was moving. And I was just sitting there. I was going, well, the drill sergeant isn't around. So I just sat there and just kind of waited. And then I heard a drill sergeant, what do you see? What's left? And they were slowly coming over, and they were trying to see what was in my lane. Is there anything left? What is the body? Do you see any blood? Is there anything left? And they all was creeping, and it was like 10 drill sergeants was creeping back to my position to see what was left. And I'm standing there smiling, right? And I got the spoon in my hand, right? I got the spoon sitting in my hand, right? I'm not supposed to have the spoon, because the spoon's supposed to be down the goddamn lane. I got the spoon sitting in my hand, and I'm going, what? And the guys, you're fucking alive. You're still alive. I can't believe it. All 10 of them, all 10 drill sergeants picked me up, right? All 10 of them. And they carried me off the lane. And then they took me over to a tree and pulled my pants down to expose my behind. They had this great big model of an atropine injector. Atropine is like some kind of drug that you stab into your thigh if you got nerve gas or whatever. But they had a great big model of one that was like about 3 feet high and about 1 foot. So they put me on the ground, pulled my pants down, and took that great big atropine injector and rammed it in my ass. He says, if you're not dead, you're gonna be dead, god damn it. And he rammed that doggone atropine injector right in my ass. And then they start laughing. Everybody was laughing. They could not believe it. They could not believe that I was still alive. So that's one of my adventures that I had when I was a private up at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, one of the meanest drill bases there was. because they were preparing us to go to Vietnam. Vietnam was just closing down, and we were supposed to be the last bunch of troops that were supposed to go over to Vietnam and do the cleanup operation. That was 1975, sometime around March, April, or whatever. And the Vietnam War, I think it shut down about a month after I went through my training. So that's one of my stories. I want to let you know. I hope you enjoyed the story. I've had plenty of war stories where I just barely made it. Hope you enjoyed the story, and I want you to have a wonderful day. Remember to subscribe, like, put some comments down, and if you got any war stories that you'd like to tell me, put them in the comments, and I'll read them on the on my show. Does anybody out there have any stories about handling hand grenades? All right, we'll see you, and we'll see you on another edition of What's Up, What's Up, What's Up?